Hello everyone and welcome back for video 30 in this set of videos. I've been putting together lecture notes for a summer camp with high schoolers learning game dev. It's happening later this summer. This might be a little bit long, but I think I'm going to go ahead and finish it out anyway, and um, I'll edit it down some point between now and then. But I wanted to finish the video, so in the last, we've been at it for, well, this is video 30, so I've been at it for a while. In the last video, we put together the cutscene that introduced the storyline we built for our game. So now we're ready for our uh, primary antagonist, I suppose, which, if you remember the storyline, if you've been watching the videos, we're going to uh, run around and beat up aliens with a stick, basically. So we need to create our aliens for that, and I made the model a couple videos ago. Let's look at the animations on that real quick. So at least the first draft of the model here. So if I open up the one that we exported from Blender, so the aliens are going to run around. I just modified the hero character for the first draft, made it a little bit shorter, made the arms stretched, and whenever it gets close to our character, so our character's coming up in front of it, it's going to reach out and grab it, and that'll be the game over situation. We'll get to that before long. Um, and then it just brought in the walking and idling animation that came from that hero character it started with. So it'll walk around for a while. Whenever our hero gets close, it'll reach out and grab it. And if it does, then that'll mark the end of the game. So basically, our hero, in order to fight him, is going to have to come around to the back, and we'll measure it so that if it's in front of the alien, it'll grab it. So the hero kind of has to sneak up behind the aliens and hit them with the stick to fit in the storyline. So um, started importing that. The grab alien is the grab animation on the alien. Oh, had a lot of trouble with that sentence for some reason. The grab animation is only going to happen once, so set that to no looping. But idling and walking are going to happen quite a bit, so importing those into Godot, we'll set it to linear, and again, something that would be consistent in all of our game engines. We're just using Godot for the example here, and we'll re-import that. So now that's ready. And in general, it's going to be a lot like our player. We'll set up this character body that can be controlled, only the computer is going to control the script instead of us. It'll still be uh, a character body, which is also known as a kinematic body in other engines. Set up our mesh, a collision shape for it. We won't have to worry about a camera, and we'll need an animation tree to control the alien's animation. So a lot like our character, but a little bit. We'll leave off the camera, and the script will be handled by the computer, which is just going to run around in random directions on a navigation mesh. So we'll see navigation mesh before long. But for right now, we just need to create it and get it set up to grab our characters. So we'll start by choosing a kinematic body, which in Godot is called a character body. If we just search for body, we'll see the either rigid body, the solid things that our laws of physics applies to, or a kinematic body, which is a solid thing that has some of the laws of physics, but not quite all of them, so that we have more control from our script. Is a good way to introduce that. So that's the logical component of our game. And then we need the data component, which some of that will go in the script, and some of it will be from the mesh. So got that in. And for the rough draft here, just a modification of the other rough draft of our main character. Should probably rename these so we can keep them straight because we'll want to refer to some of them in the script. So that's going to be our alien. I'm just going to call this, just mark it as the mesh. And we'll need to access the components of that. So right in Godot, we can right click and hit editable children. A similar functionality in all of our game engines, it's just in a slightly different spot. So that kind of sets up our character. We can put it in there. Well, almost got the little warning here that we need a a collision body. So I'll select this, add a child, search for collision, something we do in all of our game engines over and over again. And I think just a box will work for this. So over here under shape, we can choose a box shape. Shouldn't be anything fancy going on here. All of this we saw in when we set up our character. Oh, I looked at that and I thought the snap was on and I was turning it off, but I apparently turned the snap on. So I'll bring it up so that the feet are in about the right position and the head, maybe scale it up just a little. Click here so we can look straight on. Oh, it's definitely in the wrong spot. Move it down so that it covers the head and the feet. Scale it up just a little more, that'll work. And then I'll grab the little handle and stretch it in. And really, the feet are so that it can stand on the ground correctly. And the head is where the character is probably going to hit it because our character is about twice as tall and swinging a stick. So it's probably going to come down on the head. And I'll look from the side, scale that down so that it's about the right size. And in this case, I'm just going to kind of look at the head, the connection for our head. So now that should be able to stand on the ground. So if we give this a save, under objects, this is an alien dot Godot's file extension. And now if we go over to level 1, we should be able to bring one of those in to begin our testing with. So I'll bring it up here and drop it in to the scene and bring it over here close to the character so that we can kind of test how the logic happens. So the first thing we want to do with it, once we get it over here, is make sure that when our character approaches from the front and we get close, the alien notices and reaches out and grabs us. So that's the first thing we want to do. And then the second thing, we want to be able to come around behind it and hit it, have the character hit it with the stick. So there'll be a little bit of, I guess we still have to update our character thing. That'll go quickly. But before we do, and then it'll fall over. So that'll happen in the script. We need the animation in order to check the grabbing. So I think that's probably the most logical thing to do next is go ahead and activate that grabbing animation. And then we'll be able to see if the alien can grab the character. And then the next video, we'll update our character so that he swings his stick and make sure it can hit the alien. And then we'll have it moving around, and still quite a bit to do, as you can see. It's going to stretch out over the next few videos, but I think next up is going to be these alien animations, which again is something we already saw. We'll just put that right in the script. So I'll go in here and create a new script. And this time, I don't think I need that character control one. So I'm going to switch to just the default script because the character control, you might remember, came in with all that basic movement function. As soon as we installed that, it was ready for us to start using keyboard. But we won't need any of that. So I'm just going to go to the default script and save it in the right spot, which would be in the scripts folder. Call it Alien. That's a good name for it. Go ahead and save that and create it. And well, right now, the main thing we'll need it to do, get rid of the comments so those aren't in our way. Right now, the main thing we needed to do is control the animation. So we need to set up our animation tree so the script can do that. And right here, starting off the script, there's one other thing I want to do. If you remember when we talked about scripting, we talked about the initialization function runs one time when it starts, and then the frame by frame function that runs every frame of the game, which Godot calls process, and there's several different versions of them. In our player script, we used a variant called physics process, which is better because our character is moving around and the laws of physics are applying. And same thing's going to happen for our alien. So instead of just using regular process, I want to go ahead and switch this over to physics process. And then we'll focus more on the physics of it and just include the animations as well. And process by itself would be better for data or graphics. First, we need to create our animations so that the script can ask for the right one at the right time. And again, this will be almost identical to what we did for the character. So on our logical unit, we'll create the animation tree. This is something we have in all of our major game engines, a state transition tree to control animations. It's a nice, easy way to get started. Set our tree root as just a new animation state machine. And obviously that's not the only one, but we have, it's kind of standardized. We have the same sort of controls in all of ours. So here using the state machines, that's one of the easiest ones to get started with. And it's going to connect to the animation player that we created with the character in Blender. Those three animations we looked at a moment ago. So from our start state, we'll probably go into idle. And from idling, we might switch to walking. And then Alien also has a grab one. So I'll add the transition. So from the start state, we will immediately go into the idle state. And our character will probably switch back and forth between idling and walking. And I'll just set up a couple little booleans to control this. So on Godot, under the Advanced tab, with that transition selected, can make a variable called isIdle. And on the walking transition, make isWalking. And this will probably happen sort of randomly. We'll set up a navigation mesh so that the aliens just wander around and have some little logic in the script so that sometimes they're standing still and sometimes they're walking, and the computer will jump back and forth between that and choose directions and stuff. But then sometimes, whenever the character gets close to it, whether we are currently walking or currently idling, we want to be able to switch from walking into grabbing, and we'll do that on a condition, I'll call it isGrabbing, to be consistent with the others. And if the grab misses, we'll go back to what we were doing, so we might need to go back to the walking animation. And here, can use the same Boolean again, isWalking. So if we're in idling and isWalking becomes true, we'll go to walk. And if we're in grabbing and isWalking becomes true, we'll go back to walk. Same thing, if we were idling, we want to go back to what we were doing. So I'll set a transition from idle into grab, and we'll switch there when isIdle becomes true. And if we are just standing around and the character gets close enough, like foolishly walks up to us, that's probably the least likely one to happen. But if the alien's just standing there and the character walks right up to the front, which probably shouldn't happen except for when we're debugging it here in a moment and making sure everything works correctly, we want to be able to grab it, and we can use the same Boolean again. So if we're idling and isGrabbing becomes true, we'll go to that the grabbing state and then back to the idling state if it's a miss. So you see how we don't have to come up with extra variables every time. As long as it's clear which states we'll be moving between, which one we're in and which one we're going to, we can reuse them. If there's any ambiguity, it's probably best to come up with a new one if it's even slight ambiguity, but if it's very obvious which state we're in and which state we'll be going to, we can reuse the same variable, which makes it a lot easier because then there's less to keep track of. But it looks like we're up to about 15 minutes, so we'll continue this in the next video and we'll finish out the script for this. I'll see you then. Or we'll add this into the script and I will see you then.